Alright, I got my chameleons ready. Quite a few of them, and also some new molds, which I'm not going to show you just yet. You're going to have to wait. So let's have some fun. Howdy Howdy, this is Clara Lawrence, and we're going to do some simple dry painting with some pigments onto some really ornate looking molds. I found these, where did I find these on? I think I found them on Etsy, and I really, really like them. They remind me of like Egyptian drawings and very ornate. You know, they would have their little statues and which have a lot of real neat line work on them. And I just fell in love with them. I thought they were really pretty. But the way that they are designed, I thought would work really nicely with a simple technique, which I'm going to show you. But the first step is doing some dry painting. So I'm just going to, basically, this is applying some general body color with chameleons. So I'm going to enjoy the aspect of chameleons, color shifting and things like that to really help bring out the, I guess, the luminosity that some beetles will have. So we are going to play with that today. So hubby and I are sharing the studio together, and he had to do some work, so I thought I would do a time lapse in the meantime, and with the intention of doing voiceover. And that's okay. We all have to share space with each other. So this technique that I wanted to show you is something that you could do with most molds that have some detail look to them. The ones that are really smooth, this doesn't really work out as well, but this one, it works out fabulous with it. So right now, just think of it as we're trying to give the bug or the butterfly an overall color. And you realize when I first putting like this specifically down on the butterfly, I'm focusing the most on certain spots and then fanning it out from there. So I let there's almost like a buildup of static electricity that's on the molds, and you'll see it how I just start to put it down and it kind of sprays on the side. So I'm letting that work to my advantage. Um, and here with the bee, I'm putting primarily most of the pigment down in the middle area and just very lightly on the wings. So that way it gives a little bit of a transparent look, a little bit. But I'm going back and forth between mostly two different colors on each of them. Actually, no, I take it back. I didn't do two colors. That one was one color and the other one was the second color. Okay. There are a couple of the bugs that I did use two colors on. I love, love, love this dragonfly mold. Isn't that pretty? So I've got most of the color, again, focused right in the middle area there. You guys are going to love the second step. It just brings this whole thing alive. It's tough knowing what I'm going to do and not being able to share it completely with you guys. So be on the lookout for some molds that have a lot of detail like this, and it can work really, really well with jewelry. Embedding it into resin if you want to, adding it as a mixed media would work really well. These particular molds are very shallow, so the resin figure ends up being really, really, well, not a lot of depth to it, so it works really well with mixed medias, paintings, and heavy knots, possibly even with paperwork too. So this butterfly here is really, really pretty, but it is a little bit different from the other ones. There's a couple of flat panels there right at the top of the wings, which is really close to the jar right there. So it's going to capture either a lot of color, or on the second step, I can't tell you yet. You're just going to have to wait on the second step. So that's a video that's coming out really soon. I'll try and set them up so they're one day after the other. And remember, I can only do videos at a certain length most of the time because our internet's a little bit on the weak side here, and my hubby is really nice and brings them into work and stuff, so we try not to make them too big for his work environment also. So that's why I break this down. But I'm just moving. Okay, you did see two colors working in there, and I very lightly put it down at first, and then blend it out, and then add my second color, and then blend it into the first color. And here I'm doing the first color up on the top, just as like a hint of it, and then I'll add my second color in. And I'm ignoring the fact that both sides have a different design to them, if you've noticed. Like one side has a bunch of flowers to it, the other side has more of a traditional, almost monarchy kind of look lines to it. So this is one of those things where precision is not critical right here, except for getting the pigments into your molds. That's the only precision you really need. So it's really, really good when you are not sure about your drawing techniques or crafting abilities, or able to do things like that. This technique works really well across the board. Now, granted, this bug in real life would probably freak the heck out of me because of those pinchers, but it's definitely one of those beetles that opens up and then the wings come out of the shell and then they take off and fly. But as far as just a piece of artwork wise, it's got the details on it are just really, really nice. So this, when you're doing dry pigment painting onto molds, I happen to be using a silicone brush. It does work well with a regular brush. I wouldn't use your fancy ones. Just get something that's a little bit on the soft side as far as bristles wise, and that way you can move the pigments around in crevices and such. So these particular chameleon colors kind of come off really glittery and sparkly. Metallic colors will come off like metal and really go flat on the surface and such. So every pigment has its own little properties to it. Since these are symmetrical molds, you can see that I'm trying to be fairly symmetrical with my design on the colors, because to be frank with you, bugs in nature will do that too. And I decided at the last minute to add a second color to this guy and bring in that golden right up the middle. So definitely encourage you to tap out, flip over your molds at the end, tap it out onto a paper towel, because if you don't, you'll end up with a bunch of spots in there that have a lot of pigment, and your resin will have a hard time.
Alright, I had to share the studio with my hubby who's doing some work, so that's why there's voiceover on the beginning of this video. Anyway, I wanted to share with you, let me get a little bit detailed in here. These molds are awesome. They're very detailed, a lot of scroll work, a lot of fleur-de-lis kind of looking. Filigree, there we go, that's the phrase I'm looking for, or the word I'm looking for. So a lot of really pretty detail. Now, I know what you're thinking, that this kind of looks like a slob of a mess of painting, and that's okay, because this is the first step. And I'm zoomed in, so I'm kind of lose track where I'm at. So think about this with resin. Okay, these are chameleon colors, and they are going to be gorgeous because they're color shifting. And what I wanted to do is, a lot of bugs are iridescent in nature, and I wanted to give, let's see if I can find out where I am, zoom in was, okay. So I wanted to give the illusion of some color shifting going on here. I'm gonna fill this up with a black resin, and then when this is pulled out, I'm gonna do some additional, I don't know if this butterfly is going to get used or not, so I'm pulling out attention to this one for now. And if you notice, this side here has a lot of flower engravings, and then this kind of has a butterfly look to it, even though it is still a butterfly shape. But what the theory is, that, or at least in my head, the idea is I'm going to fill this up with black resin, pull these out, and then these color shift powders are just going to come to the surface and go bam, you know, it's really going to be pretty. But because of all this engraving and stuff, I can play it a little bit more with detail on top of the resin after it's pulled out, because it'll have a lot of texture to it. So this is only the first step of this piece. And I'm going to do a multiple step piece like I did with the Artapalooza piece with the dragon and the resin mold, just to show you how you can take a simple resin mold, you know, such as a little dragonfly. And even if you don't have any painting skills, have the resin mold kind of help guide you what it needs to do, or just push it a little bit further. So yeah, so I got in here, I got this little bee here, and he's got a ton of color in the body. And yeah, I know I didn't do it yellow, but that's okay. And then I just did a faint rubbing on the wings, and that's just to give a little bit of touch of color on the wings. And I did a little bit of that with some of these other pieces over, well, okay, that one had a lot more color. We'll have to see how that comes out. And this one, you see how ornate that is? So there's a lot I can do to play with it afterwards, and that's going to be kind of exciting. So yeah, this is the one I did very lightly on the wings, and then really solid in the middle. I just barely could flick it out to here in the tail area of it. So it's going to get little bits. Did y'all notice how when I got close to it, the static charge would make just the powders go wow, and sprinkle it out everywhere? So I started using the static charge to my advantage by, like, I focused in on, like, I wanted this to be the intense area, this to be the intense area, to give it a symmetrical look. And then whatever fanned out from there, I let it be light intentionally. So that was always the focus of the intense color there. And I just let the static charge help me out on that. And you probably noticed that in the other dry pigment paintings I've done with these silicone molds and such. All right, until the next step. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, definitely hit the bell to get notified next time I put a video up. Besides that, I'll let you know when the next part's up on this piece, because this is going to take a couple steps. Oh, and check my link for my Etsy page, because I've got some art up, and there's a couple different price ranges, so not to fear. Yeah. All right.